Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our Point of View Talk Show. We are so glad you guys could join us. We're actually going to be talking about the election results. As you can see, we were supposed to be having State Representative Derrick Jackson on the show, but he's not on yet. But guess what? He's actually calling me.
Isn't that something? But hey, go Braves, right?
Hold up. Hello.
So, Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Hi guys, so good to see everybody. Happy Wednesday, as always. So it's been an amazing week so far.
Absolutely.
How you doing, Cap?
I'm doing good. I have no complaints whatsoever. You know, how are the friendly skies?
The skies are they're doing okay. I don't know if I would necessarily say they're friendly right now because there's been a lot going on, but thankfully I personally have not had any major issues. Some of my colleagues have been going through some foolishness and dealing with some really interesting characters, but yeah.
So speaking of which, if you will, give our audience, I think it would be appropriate, and I understand if it's not, verbatim, but in a general sense, give our audience some stuff that's come down from the feds relative to how they need to conduct themselves on these planes, because all that fighting and throwing of drinks and all that stuff is not going to be tolerated. And the last report that I saw was that folks were going to be escorted off the plane and possibly more. So what have you heard as a employee of the industry? What's coming down, and what sorts of things do they want to eliminate?
Well, the FAA is definitely trying to crack down on a lot of the incidents that have been occurring, basically revolving around the mask mandates, because they still are in place at least until January. We're not sure if it's going to extend past that, but it is always a crime to hit a crew member or to do anything that's going to jeopardize the safety of the aircraft or the passengers or the crew on the aircraft. So that's pre-COVID, post-COVID, anytime or whatsoever. But now with everything that's going on, they are trying to impose more strict consequences for people who just come on and don't know how to conduct themselves. So if you are fighting, if you're getting, if you're verbally abusive towards other individuals, you can be fined, you can be banned from that particular airline. If it becomes a federal offense, you can be banned from flying any airline in the US. So, I would say that they are doing a lot. They're trying to do everything they can. And each individual airline, I'm sure, is implementing their own policies as well, their own no-fly lists and things of that nature. And it's unfortunate, but you can go online at this point and just see so many instances and so many videos or things online of situations that are going on within the industry, and it's really sad. The abuse towards my colleagues. For anyone who doesn't know, I am a flight attendant, so the abuse that my colleagues are suffering at the hands of a lot of these individuals who just do not want to comply with the mask mandate, just do not want to be considerate of others, of the safety of others, which is what it is. It's safety first when we're flying, and our goal is to just basically make sure everyone gets to and from wherever they need to go as safely as possible. And that's why we have the mask mandate in place. Now, people just don't understand that, and they've taken it to levels of aggression that are completely unnecessary. So, yeah.
Wow. And I mean, and they took off all the hard liquor, right?
You can't even... No, we actually we sell liquor on our aircraft, and we still have it for our first class and comfort plus passengers. But I think some of the airlines may have taken it off. My particular airline, we do still have it available. So.
Okay.
But we are very mindful of how much alcohol we allow the passengers to have. There is a limit that.
That's why they're in those little small containers.
You got to play close attention, cut you off if necessary. So. Hey there, state rep.
What's happening? Not the state rep.
Great entrance.
Brother Jack.
You guys know me. I
Well,
do not like to be late. I like to be mindful of people's time. That's why I said, well, we're going to go ahead and start, and we're going to talk about different things before the state rep gets on. And when he called, we had just gotten on. I'm like, I'm taking this call. I got to talk. Make sure.
But me and Jennifer, we had a good conversation. So we
Yes.
tried to encourage the people, to pack their patience essentially,
Yes, please.
and just act right when you flying on the planes. Now, what I meant to ask you too, and we'll go ahead and get started in the show, but does that include those folks who like to wear bonnets on the plane?
What's your question, Cal?
I was asking, with all the rules and the non-fighting that's going on, did they extend that to some of your cousins that like to wear bonnets on the plane?
The rules apply to everybody across the board. So it doesn't matter if you come with your bonnet or your church hat or your baseball cap. Doesn't matter. Rules apply. Everybody has to follow them. That was funny.
I just think it's a
baseball caps, guys. I think we need to go ahead and do a shout out to the Atlanta Braves.
Bam!
Congratulations.
Good segue, Jack. Good segue.
Yeah. See what you did there.
But I'm a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, but I live in Atlanta. I've been here for 25 years, so I'm really excited about the Atlanta Braves bringing the trophy home tonight. Yeah.
The parade is on Friday. The parade is Friday.
Oh,
It's
Atlanta
two
is
of them.
about to be so lit.
They've already closed all the schools.
It's two parades, one in City of Atlanta, one in Cobb.
Yeah, that's
wow.
great.
And they're both on Friday? Both on the same day?
Yes.
Another one in Atlanta is Friday.
At
Nice.
least that.
It's
Very
gonna be
nice.
lit.
Oh,
We
yeah.
got Delta. We got Delta going to do a flyover.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was really nice watching them on the news coming back home from Houston, seeing all the fans out there cheering them on, welcoming them back, and it was very nice. Atlanta deserves this. It's been what, 26 years since
Yeah,
their last
26
championship.
years.
That's 95.
So, yeah, that was the year before.
Just think about it,
we got
Jen. You were
there.
just 5 years old.
I know. I was like 2.5. Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. I have no idea what was going on.
And it was my second year on the fire department. Wow.
Yeah, so Derek, you were what, like maybe 15? I mean, like,
I know, right? I know.
So none of us really know what happened back then. So,
Yeah.
I do.
Cat's like, I'm not playing along.
And that's funny you use that, Jack, because I used to be a serious Pittsburgh Pirates fan. I had the hat. Willie Stargell was one of my guys.
Roberto Clemente.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Loved him.
Nice.
Well, that's awesome. Well, tonight we are talking about the election results. And we have with us our one and only State Representative Derek Jackson from District 64. Always, that's a tongue twister for me. District 64. But Lordsville next year, it won't be District 64 anymore. It'll be Lieutenant Governor.
That's right.
That part.
Claiming that for
That
you
part
in
right
advance.
there.
Yes.
Put that out there.
All right.
That's it.
LP.
That's it.
So welcome, Derek. It's good to see you again. This is home for you.
Yes.
So tell us, what have you been up to since last time you came on?
Well, first off, it's always good to be back with our point of view family. Listen, it seems like I see you all every day, especially Jen, because she's always doing the selfie thing. She's either in Paris or some parts of the globe, represent OPOV, and of course, Cap always send me a text or two to find out what's going on in the world of politics, and of course, shoot, Jacqueline, I think every morning you're sending out something inspirational text. So, but it's great to be on this evening. And as we were all watching the Braves, the other event that was happening, it was election day. Yeah. And there were some upsets. There were some surprises, not just in Georgia, but across the United States. Yeah. We were shocked. and I'm sure, you know, tonight's show we'll get through some of the analysis of what some of the talking pundits have been talking about. But I was, you know, I had a split screen, Cap. I had the Braves on one television and the election results on the other. And just, you know, for those our point of view audience, I wasn't at home. I was at TGIF. That's where I was able to get split screen. You know, he's running for lieutenant governor. He's talking about he got split screen. Hey, Jacqueline, because you know that's how they do it, right? He's running for lieutenant governor. He ain't like us. He got split screen. No, I was at TGIF at an election watch party, and we had the luxury of being at a restaurant that had multiple televisions. And so it was great to be able to watch the election results at the same time watching the Atlanta Braves, you know, winning the World Series last night.
You have your Braves gear on?
Not last night. You know, I was in my bow tie, you know, because we started session. I was, you know, listen, I was in my bow tie. So yeah, so we started our legislative session, special session, because we're dealing with redistricting. And you all may recall earlier this year when we were talking about the census and how important it is. The other part of that is where we start talking about our legislative districts, both the state and congressional districts. It's happening every 10 years, and it goes coincide with our census. And so that's what we started our legislative session, and we'll be through our session through November 24th, prayerfully. We're trying to wrap things up before Thanksgiving. But you never could tell, you know, folks have been pulling rabbits out of the hat. I was gonna say something else, Kat. You know,
right.
Rabbits out. But hey, listen, you know,
I caught it.
Hey, Jen, you caught that? You caught that? You know, but it's just amazing that we continue to see trickery, at the political level, instead of just creating fair maps or fair democracy. Let's just start there and allow for our citizens to do what is right and let them to elect those who they desire to represent them, their interests, their values, their principles, instead of us gerrymandering districts and creating these districts where the elected officials are deciding who their voters are instead of the other way around, voters deciding who the elected officials should be.
That's crazy.
Okay. Well, tell me who, can you tell me a little bit about the South Fulton County mayoral race? Is there a runoff or do we have a winner?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Jacqueline, as always. We do have several runoffs, and it was amazing. I mean, let's start with Atlanta first, right? Let's talk about the 800-pound elephant, no pun intended, for all the Delta Sigma Thetas out there. But there were 14 individuals running for mayor in Atlanta. 14. So you know, Jacqueline, just by the mere fact of 14 individuals, you know it's going to be a runoff. It's going to be a runoff. Now, if we had to set the stage, when you start talking about runoffs, you got to talk about Senate Bill 202. And Cap, you remember we right here on our point of view, we talked about Senate Bill 202 and how egregious that voter suppression bill, we call it the Jim Crow 2.0. And what that bill has done as it relates to runoffs, it reduced the amount of time from 9 weeks to 4 weeks. So now, Jacqueline, the runoff is going to be November 30th. Why is that important? Because everybody know to do something between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you're talking elections?
Not gonna happen.
Right. So if you thought that the voter turnout, Jen, was low before, to do it on November 30th, when everybody talk about shopping and getting ready for the holiday season, and just finish eating some of that good turkey Come on, Cap.
Yep.
Election's
Yep.
not on their mind.
Yep.
And so this is, again, I just think is wrong on so many levels to tarnish our democracy with bills such as Senate Bill 202.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, Jacqueline, now you got the runoff. Now you have, out of 14 candidates that were running for mayor as the city of Atlanta, now you're down to 2. And surprising, none of their names starts with Kasim.
Right.
Everybody was expecting for Kasim Reed, former mayor of Atlanta, 2-term, to be in the runoff against either Felicia Moore or Andre. And surprisingly enough, the people, those who voted, said that the runoff will be between not Kasim and someone else, between Felicia and Andre. And so now both of these candidates they exhaled last night, celebrated their win to move on to the runoff, and celebrated, the Atlanta Braves. And some of them, Jen, probably didn't get home till 3 o'clock this morning. But they had to wake up this morning and say, we have until now, November 3rd and November 30th, to continue to make the case why they should be the next mayor of Atlanta, between Felicia and Andre. Then there's others. To answer your question, Jacqueline, City of South Fulton. City of South Fulton had, I want to say 4 or 5 individuals, 4 individuals, and one, in full disclosure, is my fraternity brother, Bill Edwards. He's in it. And one of the City of South Fulton council members, Khalid, will be in a runoff on November 30th. And again, it was surprised because, a lot of those who are in the political circles who thought that Mayor Bill Edwards was just going to win outright and no runoff. But unfortunately, he has a runoff on November 30th. There's another runoff in South Fulton too, in Fairburn. You got a runoff between the incumbent Mayor Hurst and the former mayor of Fairburn, Mario Avery. And so you got a lot of runoffs happening in these municipalities across Georgia, and not just mayor, but school boards. There's a runoff in Atlanta Public School. You have some runoffs in council members. And so, that's the reason why it's so important for, shows such as this, Our Point of View, to keep the public informed, but more importantly, keep them engaged, because these individuals will have a 4-year term. And so now is the time to let your voice be heard. When you think about it, Jen, when some of the policies that Delta and other, corporations have to abide by, it's all through legislation. It's all who's in power. And we have a responsibility as elected officials to our citizens, to our constituents, to make sure that the right leadership is in place for that particular season. And what better time to have the right leadership in place in the municipalities that we're talking about tonight? Because if we don't, as we continue to try to emerge out of this pandemic, because guess what, Cap? The pandemic, as you all were saying in the opening of the show tonight, it's still here.
Yeah,
it's still here. We still have individuals dying for whatever reason, because they reluctantly not to get the shot, and that's unfortunate, because it's hard to convince folks when you're on a ventilator to get the shot. Then it doesn't work that way, and that's the reason why Our Point of View has been on the forefront with our own Dr. K and and my good friend Meady, talking about the importance of getting the shot. And Delta Airlines said, you know what? You all have a choice, but you're going to pay $200 a month, if my memory serves me correctly, because Ed Bastian is not playing. He said, we are in an industry where we need to make sure that our employees are vaccinated, because as much as we love to wear our masks, Jen, when we're 30,000 feet in the air, that air and the filtration system is very superior on airplanes. Don't get me wrong, but you're still in an enclosed space. It's hard to drink my gin. You know, I don't have the luxury of sitting in first class, Cap. So I can just get ginger ale. And that's but I can't sip it through a straw while I'm wearing my mask, right? So we have to do the right thing. And when you think about the election, what greater way to demonstrate our voice and our power? The great councilman, civil rights icon John Lewis said, our voting power is our power, right? I don't care if you're a billionaire or a thousandaire, we're all equal because we all get one vote, right, per person. And what better way to express who you want to represent you and to create the legislation and the policies to keep us all safe.
Now what's on deck now? Because that's a problem with all the gerrymandering and all the redistricting that's taking place and trying to suppress votes and so forth. What sort of legislation has gone forward that the people could possibly vote on, or is that something to look forward to next voting cycle?
So I think it's a combination of both, Cap. I mean, if you think about it, and that's the reason why I cleverly put in Senate Bill 202 tonight's call, tonight's show, right? Because now the runoff is based on what's in Senate Bill 202. Yes, there are 8 lawsuits. Yes, we're fighting against Senate Bill 202, but it's still the law in Georgia until the courts rectify it, right? Or Congress rectify it with some legislation to say that we need to have pre-clearance that go back through the Department of Justice. So until then, we have, legislation that we just passed earlier this year. Unfortunately, we got to deal with it now. But it also depends on the future, because these maps, and that's why we strongly urging for the public to come out to the Gold Dome. It's your right to say, because we release these maps now, Cap. We release these maps. Both the Democrats release maps, the Republicans release maps, and now we're going to have public hearing starting tomorrow at 2:00 down at the Capitol. And I'm urging everyone, all of our point of view audience, if you live in Georgia or you got some free time on your hands, please, ma'am, please, sir, come out tomorrow to the Capitol and say, we want fair maps, right? Because once these maps are done, Cap, to answer your question, you have to live with these maps for 10 years. This is a 10-year thing because we do the census every 10 years. Right? And so these maps are drawn every 10 years. And so the maps that we're living with today, they were done in 2010. And so, we gotta do our part. And you gotta let your voice be heard, because to complain, Jen, after the fact, it's just going to be just like any other complaint. It's just going to circulate in the ether somewhere. And so you got to complain or let your voice be heard, if you will, on the front end. And so right now is the front end of this process. before these maps that have been released this past weekend to end up becoming the law.
So Derek, with the runoff, is there early election, early voting, or just one day, just that one day?
So that's a great question. So the week prior to the election will be early voting. So guess what happens the week prior to November 30th, Jacqueline? Thanksgiving.
That's Thanksgiving, yeah.
Yeah.
People will be out of town.
You see what I'm saying?
They're going to be
Yeah.
away from their voting polls, so they won't be able to vote early.
Right.
Wow.
And it also impacts those men and women who are in uniform, who are overseas,
Wow.
right? Absentee ballot, right? You know how long it takes to get a piece of mail to go back and forth. Come on, right? I mean, we sent Jen a birthday card last year and she still hasn't received it
I
from
might
Kat.
get it by his birthday.
You ain't got it.
What? Wow.
It's a joke, Kat. It's a joke. It's a joke.
And I was getting ready to say, hold on.
Work with us, Cap. Come on.
I was
But
gonna
just
say I have
think
a
about
month
it, though.
until my birthday, so
You
go ahead
know,
and put
men
anything
and
in the
women-
mail for me now.
That's right. That's right. That's why we got to do Cash App. But just think about it. Absentee ballot is a mailing process. And so men and women who are serving in our armed forces, who are overseas,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that 4-week window now, instead of 9 weeks, right? Think about those who are away at college outside of Georgia,
Yeah.
right? Think about them. So this is not democracy that we should try to convince other countries abroad, to partake in, right? It's hard for us to sell democracy now. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy this democracy that reflects Senate Bill 202, right? We want a fair process. We want to make sure that ample time that allows for those men and women in uniform to be able to now see who is in a runoff, right?
Right.
Because the person that they voted for in the absentee ballot back in the early parts of October when they started the absentee ballot may not be in the runoff now. So now the person that they voted for is not in the runoff. So now they've got to probably research somebody that they probably did not consider initially, right?
They may just not vote at all. A lot of people won't vote. They don't vote on the for the runoff.
And that's wrong, Jacqueline, on so many different levels. As a retired naval officer, I think that's wrong, right? I think that's incredulous when you put forth a piece of legislation that we know, inadvertently that this is going to silence a segment of our society, right? Those 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are attending college, right? Now, do they not participate in this democracy? The men and women in the armed forces who are serving overseas, do they not participate in this democracy? But yet they're protecting it? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question about, can you answer a question about a question that was on the ballot? Election's over.
I know.
But I was just confused. I'm in the city of South Fulton, Georgia, but there was a question about Atlanta schools on the ballot for the city of South Fulton. But we weren't able to vote for the mayor of Atlanta, but they wanted us to vote on a question for the city of Atlanta.
So
how is that?
let me answer your question this way without answering that question directly, right? Because I want to be honest here. In the state of Georgia, there's this thing about if you live in unincorporated or if you don't live in the city limits, you can't vote for the mayor or council if you're in unincorporated, right? And so when you purchase your home, you're not thinking, well, am I living incorporated or unincorporated? Especially if you lived in another state where they don't have such a law, right? And so unfortunately in Georgia, if you reside in an unincorporated area, you cannot vote for mayor and council, those who are in the city limits. Number one. Number two, on certain questions, we at the state level, we don't do a very good job educating the public about these questions, right? Because the way they could, the way they're written could be confusing, right? Thee and thy and the, right?
Right.
That could be confusing, right? It's not plain language. And so I just think it's wrong how questions are asked on the ballot. There is no education piece that explains the questions at the ballot. And then more importantly, get this, Jen, the questions are at the end of the ballot.
Mhm.
So think about that, Cap. It's clever. If you had 50 questions, you trying to figure out who's running for what, and then now at the end you want me to think through a question or two?
Put your thinking cap on.
Right? So a lot of so when you look at that question or questions, Jacqueline, it's very low response rate. It's a very low response rate. And I think it's by design. I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong. I think if you want citizen input, the true indicator of a survey, because that's how I look at it, Jen, as a survey. When you're asking me 3 or 4 questions about the Constitution or about public education or about healthcare or liquor or smoking or things like right? Those are all important questions. You should be able to get a great response from our citizens. So let's put the questions on top. Let's start there. Put the questions on top first. Those 3 or 4 questions. Let the citizens deal with those questions first, while they're vibrant, where their thinking cap is solely on, right? So you don't want to make a confusing point to where Cap said, okay, I went through who I want to be my county commissioner and the mayor and council member and then school board, then dog catcher. Now you want me to answer some questions?
Like I'm done now.
I'm spent. I'm like, oh, you know what? Get my card out. I'm gone. Right? I just think it's wrong. I just think it's wrong how we go about doing these things.
I think what got me with that question was the 20, what was it? 20, I know it was 5 years. What was it?
20 quarters.
Quarters. Yeah, 20 quarters. They wanted something to last for 20 quarters. I'm like, that's a long time.
Yeah, well, see, so again, because I don't want to answer that question directly, but answer in a more in a macro sense. Who better to answer that question than school teachers? How about do a survey with school teachers, right? Not me as a parent, or what if I don't have any children in the school system? Is it right for me to answer that question still? Right? If I don't have any children in the school system, right? And so if I have a question around the airline industry, the best person on tonight's panel is to ask Jen, because she's in that industry. Don't ask a retired naval guy, and Lord knows, Cap, he's used to busting down doors and putting out fires. He may not, be the person that's suitable to answer that question too. Right. So I say do the survey of those subject matter experts who are in the industry. So I don't know what 20 quarters look like. I don't know what curriculum. I mean, just like we had a conversation yesterday, Jacqueline, that this guy because I don't get in shouting matches anymore. I refuse to, Jen. I don't get in shouting matches anymore, especially if I know you don't know what you're talking about. And so this guy was talking about critical race theory, Jacqueline. And so he was like, I don't think we need to be teaching critical race theory to first graders. I'm gonna let him talk. Yes, sir. Okay, all right. You finished? Yeah. I just want to make sure, because we gotta get Georgia back in critical race theory. I think it's racism and this and that. I'm like, sir, are you finished? When you go, okay, I'll respond to your question when you finish. Yes, I'm finished, Representative Jackson. Okay. Okay, for starters, sir, do you know what critical race theory is? Well, I don't think we need to dissect it. No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you, do you know what critical race theory is?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, because in order for us to have a conversation, we have to have some sort of baseline. So if you don't know, just tell me, and then I'll let you know what critical race theory is. Well, I know that they want to change history, and this. No, sir. That's not critical race theory. I'm not sure who told you that or where you getting your information from. I said, but I will tell you this, because I'm trying to watch a World Series. I will tell you this. Critical race theory, sir, is not taught to first graders. In fact, it's not taught through K through 12. It is a college level course. And not everybody in college get that. So it's a curriculum that's taught at the collegiate level, and you have to be in the pipeline to get that course. So let's start there. And I said, but while we're talking about history, I just find it amazing, because we can't go back in history. I just find it amazing that a lot of things that we're learning today was excluded from my textbook and your textbook, because I didn't learn about these 3 smart, brilliant, intelligent women of color that helped John Glenn get to the moon and orbit space. I didn't learn about them until 2016.
The movie came out.
After I graduated from college, sir. 2016. They were instrumental in NASA. Did you know that? Well, no. I said, well, you might want to watch the movie called Hidden Figures, because it was appropriately titled Hidden Figures. They contribute to our society, but someone thought it was worthy enough to exclude them from the textbook. So all we want to make sure that we tell the whole history of this country, those who contribute to this country. Don't exclude us, include us. And I said, move out of the way, because we're at the bottom of the 5th. Watch again.
Right.
And so that's the point, Jacqueline. I think some questions should not be asked of our citizens, because they may not have the information to make a sound decision. Because what should be yes might be no, right? This true false is a false equivalency, because people think, oh, we just make the questions true, false, or yes, no. No, it's not that easy, because there's some unintended consequences depending on how you answer true, false, or yes, no, right? Sometimes you need to have 3 or 4 responses down here. Now you can get a better sense of what the citizens, how they want their government to respond, or what legislation that we should be working on, right? We should be working on, making Georgia the nut of the state pecan, or pecan, depending on where you're from.
Right.
But so I just think we got major issues, right, with our health care. These last 20 months clearly demonstrated in the state of Georgia how is it that we have the CDC right here in our state, and we don't have the exercise the political courage to listen to what the CDC was giving us guidelines? Come on. come on. Let's talk about something more meaningful, like healthcare, public education. Let the teachers who are part of this system, don't ask me or you, ask teachers. What is it that you all think will be conducive, creating a conducive learning environment for our children for the 21st century? Because the way Cap and I were taught back with Noah is not how they should be taught now, right? Right? Cap and I, we learned how to count with our fingers and our toes. Now you got smart devices, so
Would you say
time
the
has
same,
changed.
would you say the same thing about police reform? One of those, that's an certainly important subject. And I've noticed that people are really they're getting away from defund the police. And I think in their heart of hearts, they don't really want to take per se money from them, but they really want to pivot it to other areas that could be more cohesively utilized with the community. So
yeah, I think you're raising an excellent point, Cap. I mean, because think about it. Police reform was on the ballot last night, and the people were loud and clear. Because Kasim Reed was talking about crime, Felicia Moore was talking about crime.
Yep.
You're right. Andre was talking. All 14 candidates were talking about crime.
Right.
Now, how they want to go about dealing with it, Jen, the people said, well, you know what? I like what she is saying, or I like what he is saying.
Right.
And they went to the ballot. They went to the ballot, right? And so these topics around crime, criminal justice reform, decriminalization, or defund the police, all these things, all this stuff was on the ballot. And the people were loud and clear on which philosophy they want, which leader they want. And I personally, I think this whole thing about defunding police, I think it just was designed to get people stirred up, right? Nobody's talking about defunding the police. I want the police to be able to, when any of my constituents, including myself, dial 911, I want the police to show up. What my concern is, Cap, is when you dial 911, nobody should end up dead.
Right.
If they're Black and brown.
Right.
So let's talk about that. And we got some hard cases. We don't need to go through them tonight, but we got some hard cases that's in the news when citizens of color dialed 911 and someone ended up dead.
Right.
That's wrong. No mother should say, I'll dial 911 because my son was having a mental illness crisis and he ended up dead.
Right.
We have a case or two of such, right? So let's really talk about those topics that matter most, right? Let's talk about, why African-American women 3 or 4 times likely die trying to give birth to a child.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about why it's political to wear a mask when, Delta Airlines said it is our policy while you're on this flight to wear a mask. Yep. It's like what Jen was saying. This is about being neighborly, right? This is no different than wearing a seatbelt. It's your right. You don't have to wear a seatbelt, but it's our right to give you a ticket, right? This is about being neighborly. This is about being civil, right? And so there are some folks out there that use these bumper sticker type points, Cap, to get folks stirred up, defund the police or critical race theory, right? It's just to make a lot of noise, Jacqueline. It just makes a lot of noise. And
they say them in a negative way, and they don't really know what they're talking about, because sometimes, to me, it appears when people are saying defund the police, they're mad at the police and they want you to take away something from them. instead of them being educated, having programs where they're educated on how to deal with mental illness. They just want you to, well, since you don't know how to do it, we're going to take that money away from you and put it somewhere else. And we're going to just close down the whole police department. People, they say things like, defund the police when they're mad and they don't understand what's going on.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Well, in Minnesota, they voted to not separate the department. The department is going to stay intact. And they got a chief up there who vowed and said, hey, look, I'm responsible for this department. I am going to make sure that what needs to be done is done to make sure that we are accepted by the community and that our officers are held accountable and doing the right thing. Because, folks, they got tired of their children and neighbors winding up dead. They just got tired of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. They did you take the money. They're not going to use the money right. Then that part of the money goes somewhere else.
Take it away from them.
They've come back on that, and they've cooler heads have prevailed, if you will, and they're saying, okay, let's go a different direction. Let's pivot. Let's utilize these funds in a way that will be beneficial to everybody, to the community.
But the concern that I had, Cap, with that question, that question doesn't tell you what's the other, right? If you're going to take the money from one department or separate the departments, I think it's a responsibility of the elected officials to explain what the other is, right? That's like saying, I'm gonna take your medical care away from you, but don't explain what the alternative is, right? I think you gotta close the loop of the conversation. You gotta connect the dots. And so nobody gonna say, well, wait a minute. Nobody gonna say yes to taking something away without explaining what the other is.
Right.
And I think it was very appalling how they rolled that question out in the lack of education, the lack of awareness around that question. Right. Again, when you make something yes or no, that there's some unintended consequences there, right? It's no different than, it's like I was telling my nephew. I said, nephew, if you go and ask a young lady, can you take her out to for a date? Don't just ask the question, hey, may I take you out for a date, and leave it dangling. No, because she's going to be trying to figure out, well, take me on a date to where? Where are we going? When? How long? What I need to wear? Right? So don't leave the question out there dangling. No, say, listen, I'd like to take you out a date, dinner for two on Saturday, and then after dinner, we're going to catch a movie, right? So you don't need to dress up, jeans, sweatshirt, cool, wear your chucks, right? We good. So now you don't remove the guesswork from her, right? She gonna say, oh, I'm either available on Saturday, which movie, right? You got it. And so I think as elected officials, when you ask these questions, it's no different. And I use that, as a very fundamental example down at the Gold Dome, because a lot of folks realize, hey, you know what? I had to ask somebody on a date before. So I try to use examples that everybody can relate to.
Yeah,
right?
Close the deal.
Yeah, come on. This is not hard. This is not hard.
So Derek, how's your journey towards becoming Lieutenant Governor going? Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, Jen. And I think it has been slow because everybody's been focusing on, and rightfully so, school boards and all the municipal races, right? They was like, Derek, your race not until next year. I said, that's true, but I need you to give me a deposit. You're right. Give me I need you to write me a check now, right? I need you to write. But it's been great, Jen. Let me tell you what I've been learning the most. I announced my candidacy for Lieutenant Governor back in April. So that's been 6 months? Woo. 7 months. 7 months now. So so I've been crisscrossing. I've been on the coast, Savannah and Brunswick and Jekyll Island. I've been down south, Valdosta, Warner Robins, Americas, Albany. Tomorrow, I'll be in Columbus. So if you live in Columbus, our Point of View family, I'm coming to you, Columbus, because they have the Fountain Classic this weekend. And so so I'll be there Friday and Saturday. But what the three things I've learned though, Jen, and answer your question, it's been great personally and professionally because it gets me and it provides me an opportunity to meet people where they are, to meet Georgians where they are. I've learned places like Ty. Anybody know where Ty, Georgia is?
You said Ty?
Ty. I know where Ty is now, right? You know, they may only have a couple of, traffic lights and some dirt roads, but guess what? They call Georgia home. And the people that I met in Ty, man, and it was just a few, but it was so important to them and to me to hear what their issues are, right? And because they are 2.5 hours away from Atlanta, almost 3 hours away from Atlanta. And when you think about it, they want hospitals, they want quality of life care, hospitals, and they want jobs too. They want a good public education. They definitely want broadband, Jen. Woo, they want broadband down there, right? Oh, hey, listen, because these things are only as good as the broadband that's available, exactly. Right? Exactly. So it's been great, number one, to meet people where they are. But number two, Jen, what I've learned as I crisscross Georgia is that folks are hungry for change. And they want elected officials who not looking to promise them the world. That's not what they want. But just to be true to who they are, right? If you're going to fight for me, we want you to continue to fight when we get you in the office, right? And so, and then number three, I think that which is most important to me, is that this thing called quality of life. Man, it's different for everyone, right? Because not everybody, married, not everybody may have children, not everyone, right? And so there are differences in terms of, what they want and what they want their government to do and work for them. And so I've been learning a lot, and I've been an open book, and Lord knows, when you talk to someone that's in their early 80s, and they've seen everybody, they talk to everyone, they're not asking for much. They just want you to meet them where they are. And that's been a blessing. And I tell them all, I look forward to serving them, right? I'm doing this because God said, too much is given, much is required. And God said, he sent his son to serve and not to be served. And so I truly believe that service is in my DNA, and the campaign has been coming along great. And I encourage everybody, go to votederekjackson.org. And I'm only advertising because Jen asked me the question.
Yes.
Right? VoteDerekJackson.org. Go to Vote Derek. That's DERRICK. Because I found there's a Cap. Not everybody knows how to spell Jackson,
right?
But Derek is spelled like 8 different ways.
Yes, sir.
Two R's. Is it 2 R's or 1 R?
2 R's.
Okay.
My mother, bless her soul, she said, Derek, your name is the only Derek that's in the dictionary. I'm like, that's my mama. My mama. She made sure Derek was in the Webster dictionary.
Now, while you were down in Ty, did you happen to slide on over to Tifton?
You know what? Tifton is coming up. We had to go through Tifton, but we didn't stop in Tifton.
Oh, okay.
Because we're going to Warner Robins, and they were going several different places while we were down south. But Tifton is coming up, and many other areas are down there. Listen, Georgia's big, y'all. It's huge.
The folks down there in Willacoochee want to see you too.
Listen, Listen, I need
He
to,
gonna hit all the cities. He gonna hit them all the little
I need to call Jen and figure out if Delta have a helicopter that I can rent.
Right.
I know they got jets. I know Delta got jets, but do they have helicopters for Lord Jesus?
So how many candidates are running for the lieutenant governor position?
There's 7 of us.
7.
Mm.
7, but there's only one Derek Jackson.
There
You
you
took
go.
those words right out of my mouth. I was about to say, there's
Right,
only
only
one
one.
Jackson. That's all we're concerned with. So
Thank you,
right.
Jen. Thank you.
That part right there.
yeah,
That part.
yeah. All right. Well, we look forward to cheering you on the whole way, and next year, it's
I
on the
know.
happen.
Well, but you know what, Jen? You know, elections have consequences,
Mhm.
right? And I was telling a group in Gwinnett, it was about 200 people, and Jacqueline, you'll love this, especially coming from law enforcement. I told them, I said, would you go to a doctor that's not qualified? Would you call a police officer that's not qualified? Right? In the world of politics, Jen, this is the only industry somebody can wake up and say, I think I'm gonna run for governor or president of the United States and have 0 experience at all. Think about that.
Are you
Right?
going?
You have to be qualified in everything in all the other fields, right? To be a
I
flight
just came
attendant,
back from
a
my
pilot.
training.
You gotta be qualified.
Just
You gotta
came
be
back from
qualified to
my
be a
annual training.
firefighter. But in the world of politics, where you changing folks' lives through legislation, it goes back to your question, Cap. I mean, legislation, that's law. And law creates policies,
Mhm.
right? And
Right.
so yeah, Jen, elections have consequences. And I've been telling everybody, there out of the 7 candidates, no one have 37 years of leadership and service experience,
Mhm.
but me, right? I'm 3 terms under the Gold Dome. So I understand legislation. I understand the legislative process, right? This is no hypothesis. This is no thesis, right?
Mhm.
Right? I'm just saying, I understand. I know how to work with Republicans, and I let them shout until they get exhausted, Jacqueline, and say, are you finished? Okay.
Now get out the way so I can play the game.
That's right.
Right. Scoot on out the way. You're messing up my picture.
But yeah, so elections have consequences, and last night, and we're asking all of our point of view audience tonight, y'all stay engaged. We got runoffs, and these are critical races,
Yeah.
critical races. And it's
Mhm.
November 30th. Please, ma'am, please, sir, put it on your calendar, November 30th. And I know there's so much going to be going on because Thanksgiving, and it's between Thanksgiving. And I know, but early voting, these laws have changed. Senate Bill 202 have changed everything. So you got to stay in tune. And Our Point of View is one of those shows. We're going to keep you informed. We're going to keep you engaged. But we can only do so much. We can't take you to the polls. We can't push you to the polls. We can't pull you to the polls. We can educate you, right? And that's what we've done tonight to let you know that there's a runoff on November 30th. Please, ma'am, please, sir, stay engaged, stay informed, and make the right voting decision on November 30th.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you
We
so much.
appreciate you being back with us. And I'm sure we're going to have you back again before your election. Well, your election is not until next year. So, yeah, but thank you so very much for being here and for enlightening us on the election results and all. We appreciate
Always
it.
a pleasure, Derek. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, I appreciate
next week,
Hey, listen, we've done on site before. I was at
Oh,
State
did you?
Farm. We did it from
Yes,
State
we
Farm.
have.
Y'all remember? We did it from Mercedes-Benz. So I don't have a problem doing it from Machu Picchu, or
Whoa,
whatever
whoa,
place.
little.
Yeah.
sounds good. Sounds good. But this, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything you heard and everything we said was Our Point of View. We'll see you next week. We're going to have an update on the coronavirus with Dr. Kay Stevens and Mimi Bartonelli. See you later.
All right.